So, Uku, what you're saying is to interpret the fourth dimension, third dimensional beings have to attach the second and third dimension to extrapolate the calculations necessary for being able to measure the area of the fourth dimensional shapes? Man, it must be tough being restrained to only 3 dimensions. So recently, me and Uku have been watching the Big Bang Theory episodes, for like the millionth time, and a thought occurred to me. Perhaps Sheldon isn't the genius. I'm being facetious, of course. Obviously, Sheldon is a genius in every sense of the word when it comes to theoretical physics. But watching through the episodes, I realized that he, along with other highly intellectual people, have a tendency to take shots at Leonard for multiple reasons, but the one I'm particularly discussing is that they take shots at him because he is repeating work. Like here, take a look at this.
Yes, Penny?
Does this have anything to do with Leonard's work?
This is the beginning of a 2,600-year journey we're going to take together from the ancient Greeks through Isaac Newton to Niels Bohr to Erwin Schrödinger to the Dutch researchers that Leonard is currently ripping off.
Let's go. I think you'll find my work pretty interesting. I'm attempting to replicate the dark matter signal found in sodium iodide crystals by the Italians.
So no original research?
No.
Well, what's the point of my seeing it? I could just read the paper the Italians wrote.
Okay, look, can we just please forget about all this extra stuff and can you just tell me what Leonard does?
All right. Leonard is attempting to learn why subatomic particles move the way they do.
Really? That's it? Well, that doesn't sound so complicated.
It's not. That's why Leonard does it.
Actually, that's not true, Leonard. In fact, recently I've been thinking that given the parameters of your experiment, the transport of electrons through the aperture of the nanofabricated metal rings is qualitatively no different than the experiment already conducted in the Netherlands.
Now, don't get me wrong. I really like these jokes. They're all in good fun, and I'm looking forward to more of them in the future. But with that said, I think it's important to make the distinction that these jokes are not representative of what Leonard or people like Leonard in the real world actually do. Because if you go through the entire series and you look at what Leonard and Sheldon are doing, in all honesty, Leonard's probably having as much, if not more, of an impact on the scientific community and scientific knowledge as a whole than Sheldon is, at least until the finale where, spoiler alert, Sheldon comes up with an entire theory that wins him the Nobel Prize. But really, for the majority of the series, Leonard's making an arguably just as important contribution to science as Sheldon is. Now, you might be thinking, what makes Leonard so important? Why are you so obsessed about talking about, Leonard? All he does is repeat experiments. And yeah, that's probably what he's doing for the most part. But you have no idea how important that is. Like, here's the thing. There are so many little things that can go wrong during an experiment. Like, talk to anybody who's actually in charge of doing any kind of scientific experiment, and they'll tell you there's like 1,000 different things that can go wrong, and nobody will ever know. And the only thing that we can really do to remedy this to any degree is to repeat the experiment over and over and over. And believe me, these kinds of experiments will catch tons and tons and tons of inconsistencies and mistakes. Things that we will never know about unless we do the experiment again and again and again. A lot of our knowledge would be way, way off. I mean, I'm sure we're way off about a lot of things currently, but we'd be even further off if we didn't redo and recheck these experiments to make sure that the results were consistent and that the first experiment wasn't just a fluke or a random variable we didn't consider. Doing this is the reason why we can be a lot more confident, not completely, obviously we're still constantly discovering stuff, but we can be a lot more confident than we'd originally be with just the first experiment. That's why you see people constantly correcting information. because the experiments are done again and again and again to make sure that the original experiment that was done to prove this idea, theory, or whatever is actually correct. And the reason it's so important for me to bring this up is because when scientists go out to try to get funding, they need to sell the reason why it's so important to get funding for their experiment. And it's already hard enough for any scientist in most fields to get any sort of funding. But it's particularly difficult for people repeating experiments to get funding, because you're kind of going up to people who have, different interests, and you have to convince them to do something, to pay for something that's already been done, which is something that's kind of hard to sell. Most people want to fund the new, exciting experiments. They don't really want to fund the has already been done experiments, which is, again, kind of sad, because like I mentioned before, it's a big deal that we redo the experiments to make sure we're right in the first place. I mean, everything from medicine to technology to physics, all would be way further off if we didn't double check. And honestly, we're still probably way more off than we need to be, because we're avoiding double checking a lot of this stuff. So just keep in mind that Leonard's real-world counterparts might not have the flashiest experiments ever designed, but that doesn't make them any less important. I'm sorry, what, Uku? Uku, you're not making any sense. Alright, so let me get this straight. Diana somehow got roped into organizing a charity concert, and she's freaking out because she doesn't think she's going to be able to untangle all the cables for the lights in time. Is that right? Uku, Diana's a 6-dimensional being. Knots don't exist in anything greater than 4 dimensions. That's why I keep all my charging cables there. Sheets of cable? Huh. Well, I guess topologically speaking, that could have some implications I didn't think about earlier. Well, looks like a friend needs help, so I'm gonna have to leave you guys here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, criticisms, ideas, or just want to tell me how great I am, certainly don't mind that. Make sure to leave in the comment section below. Otherwise, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell button. I post every other week, so until next time, hear nothing and listen to all. Bye, guys.